what I can tell you is I don't pay too much attention to resumes. The only thing I really look at a resume for is how many jobs have they had, how long are they there, and what type of experience do they have. I do not read them at all, ever.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
And you've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to have you on the show. Would you call yourself a serial entrepreneur or just a business guy?
Entrepreneur addict might be the best way to say it. No, but I'm definitely a startup addict. I start things, grow them, and then I try to put people in place to where I can go do something else. So
you're currently running 3 companies, right?
Yes, sir. Well, I own 3 companies. My door company is run by Josh, who's an amazing general manager. I'm very involved with working with him and some of the team members, but he runs the day-to-day. And then I'm currently interviewing somebody to run the day-to-day for my marketing agency. And then I have a consulting company that doesn't really need a whole lot of running, but yeah.
Well, that's mostly you, right? The consulting
firm. It is just me right now for the most part. I do sell consulting from my employees. For some of my employees who are interested in doing consulting, we've sold some hours for them to kind of get them some exposure and let them see what that looks like.
Fantastic. I want to talk, just a little bit through each of these companies, like how you got your start in them and how you started as an entrepreneur. Before we dive into that, can you tell the audience just a little bit about, what made, what in your life was the catalyst that said, hey, this is that I'm going to be a business owner or an entrepreneur?
So I'm not your typical kid, I guess. I struggled through school my whole life, ADD, ADHD, and anything in between. And I dropped out 17 and went into the world and got involved in drugs and alcohol and selling drugs and everything else. And so rules, I didn't really live by a lot of rules back then. And so when I started getting into the workplace and getting my life right, it was, now I'm in a position where I didn't like the boundaries. I didn't like the rules. A lot of rules I felt like weren't applicable. And some of them kept me from getting and doing what I felt would make the company more successful. And so eventually I got into automotive car sales, and not a lot of rules there. And it was kind of wild, wild west. So I fit in really well. I became, really good at that job, moved up really quickly, and eventually realized that I'm making a lot of money, but don't have time to spend it. So I got into the B2B world and started selling to car dealerships. And that led me to a company called Contact at Once, which was a software company. And I was blessed to have an amazing mentor, John Hanger, who was the CEO. And he saw me as a wild, wild west, rugged around the edges, but had potential punk kid. And he was like, I can do something with this. And he really couldn't get anybody else to take the position. So it was a natural fit.
He didn't tell you that, though.
Yeah, he did. I think he did, actually. But he groomed me. I've been told grooming is not a good word anymore. Apparently that's some type of, anyway, won't get into that. But he taught me, helped me, build me up, showed me in my errors. It was a very humbling experience. And I'd been like number one in sales everywhere I'd been. And this was no different, but he took the time to make me better and break me down because I was a little cocky. And so through that experience, we got acquired. And at the end of that, I was like, you know what? This is a publicly traded company. I'm not a good fit. And so I knew at that point in time, I had to think of something else. And so I was going to start a marketing agency. But my buddy who I had done marketing for in the past owned a door company out in California. And he was like, man, you said you want to do something different. You should start a door company. And I was like, that is the dumbest idea ever. I've never fixed anything in my life. I've always paid people. Like, I don't know anything about garage doors. I don't know anything about tools. So he's like, fly out here, I'll train you. So I flew out to California for a week, which is not enough. Trained with him, flew back, started the company. I definitely had my bumps and bruises. And it was not easy. I tried to scale it like a software company, and you just can't do that in home services. So I made some mistakes along the way, but I learned, and I love the freedom, even though I didn't set my own schedule, and sometimes I wasn't in control of my own pay, and it was still freedom for me. I still had the choice, and that's what made me excited about being an entrepreneur. And so now we have 18 employees. I got a general manager who I'm extremely blessed to have, and we've become friends. And so he runs that and does a much better job than I do of running things. And so through that position, I wanted to hire a marketing person because I was too busy to do marketing for the company. And so my accounting person told me I didn't have enough money. So I started a marketing agency. My intention was, let's just bring on 4 or 5 clients. That'll offset the expense of the employees and the overhead. And that way I'll have a team of people that can market my door company. Well, now 3 years later, we got 60 something clients. We got 8 or 9 employees, and we don't do any marketing. We do very well, and we're growing, and I'm looking to hire somebody to take over this day-to-day operations as well. And that kind of led to me doing consulting and a little bit of public speaking, and I really enjoy that. So that's kind of where I'm focused right now.
It's funny, the progression and the similarities in the story between you and I, and a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs in the world. Not great in school, problems with drugs and alcohol, and not following the rules and all of that stuff. So it's so often that I talk to guys like you, and the stories just ring so loudly for me. So congratulations on navigating through all of that, and then finding a way that you can help the rest of the world. And the consulting that you do today is leaning in on company culture.
Yes.
You do some public speaking. Tell us more about that piece.
So again, going like a lot of what I know and what have learned is credit to my old CEO and the company that we ran. I was the executive sales director. He was the CEO. I reported directly to him for the most part. And he coached me and taught me a lot about people. Like I've always connected well with people and cared for them, but he taught me how to do it in a way where you can still be like their boss. I hate that word, but for the most part, it's the best way to explain it. So he gave me a long leash and kind of let me just do my thing. And, part of what I considered my job was, how do we make this the best place to work? And, through that journey, I read books, including he even let me pay to go out to Las Vegas, and Zappos did like a culture tour. So we did that, learned a lot about how they do things, how they measure their employees. And just, you have, for example, companies that do KPIs with people on phone. They want you off the phone in 5 minutes with a sell average of XYZ, right? And they were like, if you're on the phone less than 8 minutes, you're in trouble. And so it's total opposite. And I'm like, well, why would you do that? And they're like, it's not about efficiency. It's about connections. It's about humanity. It's about relationship. We're not looking for the quick wham bam thank you ma'am. We're looking for the relationship that we built, so that person calls back and asks for Jennifer because Jennifer made a connection with that person buying their shoes or their dress or whatever it is that they were looking for. And that, through all of that, it helped me understand and realize that, how do we build a company, or how do we build businesses that better cater to the employees, that make them want to do their job better and do self-improvement. Right. And I've got now almost 15, 16 years studying that, implementing it, messing up, fixing it, and getting feedback from it.
I love it. Kate, I hate the concept of measuring people's performance. It feels bad, right? Now, I run companies and we keep KPIs on call length and all that other stuff. And I hate when managers like use this generalization of, you have to be on the call for 3 minutes or you got to be on it 8 minutes, all that stuff. And they don't really appreciate the nuance of, I use them, and love to hear your opinion on this, as a baseline to see something wrong. Okay, this is our averages, right? I'm looking for some unicorns out there. I'm like, okay, these are the guys that I need to talk with, right? I need to listen to these calls and see what was going on, and then really dive into what was going on in that particular, those offshoot events, right?
Right, I agree.
I had a job 22 years ago. If I wasn't there at 7 a.m., clocked in on the phones, you better believe it. 2 minutes after I got there, somebody was at my desk saying, "Why were you late today?" and written up and all that stuff. And it's a big reason why I can't work for other people.
Yeah,
and I don't have strict schedules for my staff.
I don't deal with strict schedules either, although my calendar is usually back to back. But
well, mine is, but my staff isn't.
Yeah, I'm rebellious at heart, unfortunately, and I try. I'm trying to break that because I know it affects me in a negative manner. But when I was number one sales at a dealership, and I had a killer month, I'd come in and park in my boss's parking spot on purpose, just to establish, the hierarchy here.
Yes.
And it was all in fun, right? But that was who I was. And so if you tell me I have to be here at 7, I was there at 6:30 every day. But when you made the rule, now I'm going to show up at 7:05 because that's who I was. Right. And I'm results driven. Do you want results or do you want me here at 7? Like, you got to choose. You can't have both. And it is bad enough to say that, but that's just how I was. And I understand the faults in that and how bad that is. But I tell my employees all the time when I sit down with them, I'm like, look, I was the worst employee you've ever met. I just was. So there's nothing you're going to do that I haven't either already done or thought about or seen, most likely.
Right. Absolutely. I'm a horrible employee. I'm combative. I don't like to, and I tell my staff all the time, if you don't watch the clock, I won't watch the clock.
Yeah.
Right. It's just that's my salary. My hourly guys, you got to watch the clock. It's illegal not to. Right. Yeah. You got to pay them time and a half if they're over their 40. But your salary guys, if they meet those requirements, and if you're running a company, you're paying people salary, make damn sure that their proper salary meet all the requirements, because the punitive damages are tough.
I feel like you have experience with this.
I have all too much experience with this in that world. So your hourly guys, you have to pay them their time and a half if they're over, and there are real strict guidelines, and your DA will fall on their side almost all the time. So, but your salary guys, or your sales guys, your commission guys, you can't watch their clock, man. It's
right.
And I don't know what it is about us, but it pisses you off.
Yeah.
Like, so if you have that kind of person, do you just say that's management or that's sales, and they're never going to be, because an operations guy can't do that.
No.
Right? An ops guy has to be, nope, I'm on time every time, no matter what.
Most op guys don't have a rebellious personality. It just goes along with who they are and their personality and the way that they're wired. They're very systematic, very systems and processes driven. So it's very rare that you'll find like an operations guy who's like rebellious. It's always the sales guy, the cocky sales guy. It's always us, 100% every time.
Right. So how does a manager know?
That either.
Right. How does a manager know to make sure you put people in the right spot?
That's tough, right? Like, because I'll hire people sometimes. Like, I've got one guy right now. I love him to death. He's a great employee, but he's in the wrong seat. So we're moving him to the right seat. And, we just hired somebody to replace him, and she's an all-star. Normally it takes us about 2 months to train for this position, and I cut her loose in 8 or 9 days, and she's killing it. Now we'll do continuous training, obviously, but yeah, I mean, I think if you find the answer to that question, how do we find the right people for the right seat? You write a book and you become the #1 bestseller, but I don't really have the answer for it. But what I can tell you is I don't pay too much attention to resumes. The only thing I really look at a resume for is how many jobs have they had, how long are they there, and what type of experience do they have. I do not read them at all,
Right.
ever. I've never read them. And I might look to see where they live because I want to see if they drive a long ways. And when they pull up, if they're driving 30, 45 an hour, I want to see if they got reliable transportation.
Right. I don't like hiring. I have a couple people that work with me that are an hour out. And my main job is operating data centers. So that you have to be in the building, right? Because the servers are physically here to work here. And I scratch my head all the time, like, man, why do you drive an hour to work every day? That's 2 hours a day. It's 10 hours a week of in the car travel. And I talk to some of those guys, they tell me it's their therapy, that they need that 2 hours away from work and away from their family and all that stuff, that's what they use it for. So, I've learned that just because I'm a certain way doesn't mean other people think like that. And
right.
It's probably just the opposite. If I'm probably the only way that thinks the way I do.
Well, they probably just really enjoy listening to your podcast driving to and from work.
Yeah, I know that's true. I know that I have employees that have never seen our website.
That's funny.
It's like, so, I mean, the amount of transferring the amount of that you care for your company and your employees care for your company.
Big difference.
That's a string that you got to cut really early or you'll be very frustrated for a very long time.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
Awesome. So what are the 3 companies that you run today? Just so we can get them.
Yeah. So Aaron Overhead
the-
Doors
yeah.
is my garage door company. How we're different is we don't really focus on everybody, being our customer. So we focus a lot on hiring garage doors. So we do installation, service, but our installation side, we have like a whole different process. So where most companies are going to send out like a service tech or something, we send a design consultant, and this person sits down with you and helps you find the best door for your house, best style, best fit, operation, everything. So a lot of our projects are 2 to 3 times the amount of a lot of our competitors because we're selling higher end product, more complicated jobs. And then we do commercial stuff as well. So we just started selling interior, like garage cabinets. We're going to get into floor coating. We want to own the whole garage. So that's kind of where we're shifting a little bit right now. We've also created like a really high end showroom where we've started to network with interior designers, and we're doing like gas strut windows and horizontal and vertical bifold doors. So some of these projects are $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 for one door, and so it can be pretty crazy. But that's our niche. That's who we are.
I get fascinated. I got to work with a company probably 6 years ago that did fast garage doors, and I was fascinated because we were working on the network for them, and it was so that as the forklifts are driving, they don't have to slow down at all. The door just pop for the.
Do those all the time. They're called high speed. Yep. And so we just did some the other day. But we do a lot of high speed doors. We do fabric doors, rolling steel. We do a lot of crazy big jobs. If other companies like struggle or are afraid because the job's too big or too complicated, we're who they bring in usually. And we're pretty fearless. We can find a solution for just about anything. And then as far as marketing, so I started Such and Such Media. And it's funny, like everybody's like, Such and Such Media, why would you name it that? I literally ran out of names that were available, and I was talking to somebody and they used Such and Such during a conversation to kind of like bridge a conversation. I don't know. And I was like, that's it. No one would name their company Such and Such. I'm naming it Such and Such. And so I decided on Such and Such Media because ultimately I had no desire to grow it into what it is today. It just organically grew this way. And then I just launched what I call the RL Group. I'm not great at naming things. That's Ryan Lucia. That's me. And that is my consulting and speaking portion of what I do.
Fantastic. And so you go, people book you to do their public events or their talk to their small business owner groups and stuff like that about company culture.
Yeah, I'll go in. I fly around into Denver. Just got back from Alabama not too long ago. I'm about to work with an HVAC company here in Georgia. Just on everyone's been a little bit different. Some are sales training for the guys in the field, and some are company culture. My background, sales and marketing and leadership. So that's where I like to focus my attention.
Right. Okay. I think it's a great time, and the world needs more people doing that right now, talking about company culture. We're in a different time right now than I've ever seen, where it's an employee's marketplace for labor right now. And
It's shifting though.
you think that's shifting back?
Unemployment rates has to go up because of, historically when you raise interest rates, like you're trying to cool the market. Businesses are taking less loans. Customers are spending less money. Companies are going to start cutting back. I mean, you've already had Facebook announce they're laying off massive amounts of people. I just think that's the beginning. I think it's going to get a lot worse. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, I do believe it is shifting.
So you're believing that we're going to shift back to an employer's marketplace.
Yes, sir.
I hope that's not the case, because I've seen a lot of growth in people and managers and bosses and throughout this process of saying, oh crap, I cannot treat my employees like they're a statistic or like they're a machine or like they're a processor.
It's forced bad managers to focus on themselves a little bit more.
And I think it's even mediocre managers, right? I would like to think I wasn't a bad manager, but I was definitely mediocre. I definitely overlooked some things, and I was hostile and aggressive in some cases, right? So this whole process has taught me a ton about being a better leader, better manager, and all those things. So I hope that we don't go too far the other direction and make it to where people are begging for work again.
Yeah, I think you also have some misalignment in the numbers because you got a lot of people with 2 or 3 jobs. So the numbers are tricky, but
yes. And then the side hustle culture right now is bigger than it's ever been. Yeah. On-demand labor, all of those things. People have options today. They don't have to do a 9 to 5 if they don't want to.
Right.
And
I love that. Now I love the freedom that people have to be able to make money and do different things. And that's how I look at my businesses, is how do we do things different? Because, everybody tries to do things the way that they were taught or raised, or because everybody else does it this way. I mean, just wake up and rethink everything and question everything. And if you can't come up with a good reason why you're doing what you're doing, then change it. I have business owners tell me all the time, for the past year, I can't find good people. And they're like, are you having trouble? And I'm like, no, I don't have trouble. I'm not having trouble finding good people. I have an abundance of people. So the problem is you aren't offering what people want. If you have something in demand, you're not going to have trouble finding good people. If you don't have something in demand, you're going to have trouble finding good people. So you got to figure out what, Absolutely. And then that also comes along with like just asking people who choose to go to another route. Like if you interviewed somebody and they go to a different company, say, hey, do you mind if I pick your brain for 10 minutes? Full transparency. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I just want to understand better why you chose the other company and what you think if we were to do here might have made it a different decision. And get that genuine, heartfelt feedback from somebody who turns you down for a job that you really wanted, and just, apply it if you think it's valuable.
So and that's for somebody that applied, that you tried to hire, you gave them an offer and they didn't take the job.
Right.
I've done that the same with, when somebody leaves, we do exit interviews, right? To try to figure out what we could have done to keep them and stay. And sometimes it's just, they've outgrown the position. Right. Mm-hmm. And most of the time for me, it's they've outgrown the position and I didn't have a place for them to go in that current infrastructure. So, And those people, I shake their hand and wish them the best of luck, and hopefully get them back on my team in the future when I have a position open for them. So really cool stuff. And then, so you got the marketing, doors, public speaking, consulting, services. Fantastic. You had a mentor when you were young that took you under his wing. How many times have you done that for other people now?
A lot.
A lot?
I've done it. Yeah. I take a lot of pride, probably too much. That's probably been my biggest fault to date, is getting too close to employees, even though John taught me how to like balance that a little bit. There are some employees that I probably take more pride in helping out than others. And, you know, as an employer, being someone who's hit rock bottom 2 or 3 times in my life and always chosen the rough path, I have a lot of empathy for people who are trying to turn it around. And so I would hire those people a lot back in the day. And I quickly found out that hiring them is not the best way to help them. You know, like, just if they're not a good fit, don't hire them. Be their friend, coach them, go to lunch with them. You know, you don't have to hire them to try to like help them. But I do have a tendency to feel empathy. And then, you know, I see a lot of myself in these young kids, and I want to help, and I try to hire them, and that's not what I need to do. So,
I do the same thing, and I've done it in this, you know, I have a couple sayings. One is no good deed goes unpunished, right? And then the second one is you can't teach fish to climb trees. So, and those are a couple sayings that I use all the time, but I don't think I'm going to stop doing it. I think I'm going to keep running into that, because some of the ones that I have been successful with, it's a really great feeling. And I think it's just like starting businesses when you're, you know, bringing somebody young in and you're trying to help them out. Even they might not appreciate it today, but I think they will later down at the road if they.
Maybe I need to come spend some time with you and figure that out, because I'm like 0 for 100 on that. So you're doing something better than me in that realm, because I would love that, but it's just not been it's not worked.
I still have this saying, no good deed goes unpunished, right? So I mean, I try it. I always get punished at the end for all of these, but you know, somebody did it for me. Yeah. Multiple people did it for me, right? So and I punished some of those people during the process, but if I didn't have them, I wouldn't be where I was today. So I'm going to keep falling on that sword, I think, moving forward. And, you know, I talk with my wife.
I admire
all
that.
the time.
I admire that.
It just is what it is. It's one of my obligations in life, I think, is to keep falling on that sword. And you know, it hasn't killed me yet. So keep doing it.
Good for you.
Awesome. Ryan, I had a great time talking with you today. Do you have anything that you would like to leave the audience with?
Stay hungry. Always be learning. Be a sponge. And,
Yes.
You know, love people. And a lot of times the rest just takes care of itself.
It does. It absolutely does. Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to talk to you soon. That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. All you have to do to join that text line is send me any question about business or technology. I'll do all the research, and I'll give you an absolutely free, totally unbiased answer. Get to work.